This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Support for this podcast comes from CDTA, The Eagle, a Times Union podcast driven by CDTA. How is it only 1 month till 2025? Here we are in the last month of the year, the holiday season upon us. I'm Jessica Marshall, and this is The Eagle, a Times Union podcast. Have you done your holiday shopping yet? I definitely haven't. So I reached out to our very own Shopportunist Shannon Fromma for some advice on gift giving and deal seeking this holiday season. So it is the holiday season. We've just gotten through Black Friday. Everybody survived. And we're all kind of thinking, or at least people like me are thinking about, how am I going to start shopping for the holidays?
Yep.
What's new this year? What's hot this year? The hot topic.
Like you said, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, they've come and gone. The spending for Christmas began probably late September this year.
It's earlier every year.
Yeah, it truly does bleed into summer nowadays. But, it helps people to spread out spending. But, as we enter December, a lot of people are going to be kind of thinking about more last minute gifts or things that they have to check off their list. And, gift cards, they're still popular. In fact, they're more popular than ever.
You're saying that the gift of the season is going to be a gift card?
It is. It consistently tops surveys. Shoppers are expected to spend around $30 billion on gift cards this year, according to the National Retail Federation. And they're kind of like the clearinghouse for all of that sort of thing. There's a reason they're so popular, though, because they're practical, they're easy to give, and recipients can always kind of have the freedom to buy what they want.
Yes.
When they want. It's just much easier, especially if you're stumped on what to give someone, and I know they can sometimes feel impractical, or they can feel actually more just not sentimental. Some people in my family, they hate giving gift cards because it just doesn't feel like a gift.
Yeah.
But they are practical and they are cherished, by recipients. So it's still something to consider.
Yeah. But it takes away kind of the thrill of the sale, right? Gift cards, you really just pay the amount of money that you're going to give, and you don't get a discount. So where does that all fit into it?
You actually can get a discount, though. That's the thing.
Huh.
There are quite a few, and this isn't anything new necessarily, but there are a couple, quite a few online gift card clearinghouses where you can purchase, or if you wanted to resell, unwanted gift cards. So this is a great place to find gift cards that could be discounted by as much as 25%. A couple of the sites I tend to go to are cardcash.com, raise.com, and giftcardgranny.com. Your miles may vary. You might find what you want, you might not. But it's a great way to save some money. And the recipient might, they'll be none the wiser. Another thing I love to do too with gift cards is if you have credit card rewards, you can often convert your rewards to gift cards. So if you're a Bank of America or Chase Bank customer, both of those allow you to earn rewards points, with your everyday purchases, but then you can redeem those for gift cards. So it's another way to save. But, BJ's and Sam's Club, those kind of warehousey clubs, They also offer, discounted gift cards. Like in the past, I've gotten Regal movie gift cards, a $50 one for $40. So that's a simple way to save a quick 20%.
Now, are there any like trendy things that are crossing your radar about ways that people are presenting gift cards? I mean, do you just kind of hand it over in an envelope? Do you dress it up? Do you put it in a box?
See, I do feel like it is impersonal to just hand someone a bag with a gift card. So I like to kind of package it with something that's maybe thematic. Like if, say, you did get a Regal Cinemas gift card or a movie gift card to a local theater, you can kind of package it with like an empty popcorn bin, a bag of microwave popcorn, a couple boxes of theater candy, just so there's something tangible there to open as well. If you're giving like a spa gift card, you can pop that in a bag with like a loofah sponge or the bath wash or, other things that kind of fit that theme, just so it's something rather than just a piece of plastic.
Yeah. As excited as I am to get gift cards, I still do like tearing
Mhm.
things open, I have to say.
Exactly. And this way you still can.
Yeah. So what else besides gift cards is kind of trending this season?
One thing I've noticed a lot this year more than others, and it's still, we're kind of like out of it slightly at this point, but I think it's still going to continue through the holiday season, our travel deals. Like I I feel like, people are still really craving experience, and all these travel outlets and trip organizers have gotten hip to that. So I've seen just an absolute ton of travel deals this year. We just had Travel Tuesday, but a lot of them are going to extend through much of December. I put up a good list on the Shopportunist page at timesunion.com of a lot of the great offers for, discounted airline tickets, cruise deals, kind of more like structured adventure tours throughout the world. One of my favorites was discounts to resorts and hotels in national parks because we're kind of really into that right now. So there's like really something for everyone out there.
That's fantastic. Yes, craving experience and then posting on the gram afterward, right? Or
Yes,
while you're there.
exactly. Just so you can prove that, yes, this did happen.
Is there anything locally that you think is worth mentioning? Like
Well, when it comes to local things, my favorite thing, going back to it, are gift cards because there are kind of some fun things you can do. Like, you know, when you purchase a local gift card, you're keeping the money in the community, you're supporting local business, and you're still, giving a really cool gift to someone. But there's two really great options locally, like, and these have been around for a bit, but I still go back to them. The downtown Albany Business Improvement District, they offer what's called a downtown Albany gift card. It's like any other gift card, but you can use it at like more than 50 locations throughout the city, including most of the popular restaurants. The Saratoga Springs offers something similar. Their downtown business association has they have certificates that can be used again at local restaurants in the city, and they can be, you can purchase these gift certificates at any Adirondack Trust branch. So they're just kind of fun, and that way, your recipient can use them how they like. But the other thing to keep in mind, like a lot of restaurants, especially, will offer bonus offers with gift cards. Like if you buy, say, a $25 gift card, you'll get an extra $5 to use yourself. So, you're giving a gift but getting a little something in return. But a lot of local restaurants also do that.
oh,
Like
that's a good thing to know.
yeah, like one of my favorites, DZ Restaurants, up here in Saratoga Springs, you get a $25 bonus card for every $50 in gift cards you purchase. And that can be used at like the three restaurants that are part of the DZ chain. That's Forno Bistro, Boca Bistro, and Chianti.
That's
And
great. So if you buy gift cards for everybody in your family, then you get a free meal too, essentially, right?
yes, yeah. I mean, there's often like a little fine print, and sometimes there's like a short window you can use them. So definitely read the details and the specifics. But yeah, it's a great way to get a little something. A couple others like El Loco Mexican Cafe in Albany, you can get $5 bonus gift card when you spend $25. 677 Prime in Albany, they're also doing, you get a $20 bonus gift card when you purchase one for $100 or more. Tara Kitchen does the same. Just, it's a quick Google search. You can see what's out there. Go to your favorite restaurant's social media page to see what they might be offering this season.
It's going to be a delicious new year, I'll tell you that.
Yes, yes. And it goes back to that whole experience thing. Like, people still love going out and enjoying dinner out with friends and family. And it's a gift that keeps on giving.
That's fantastic. One more question. Have you completed all of your holiday shopping?
I'm really close. I think the only one I haven't shopped for yet, and he's always my last minute, is my golden retriever,
Aw.
Levi. But other than that, I'm really close. Like, I think I have a few more things to pick up. I now have to just really try to rein it in and make sure that I don't fall victim to all the great deals out there and just keep buying when, you know, it's really counterintuitive, and then I'll just be spending more in the end. So that's, when you got a few weeks to go, that's always the risk. But yeah, I'm in good shape.
Find out more on all the deals and trends that Shannon mentioned at timesunion.com/shopportunist. We're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we will hear the incredible story of a long-lost hiker from Clifton Park whose remains were finally discovered in the Andes Mountains after 24 years.
Why is healthcare so expensive? What's happening with climate change? And are elections safe? You can find answers to those questions and a lot more with Capitol Confidential from me, Dan Clark. I give you the latest news and analysis from the state capitol and beyond. Sign up now at capitolconfidential.com. That's Capital with an O, confidential.com.
Schoharie County Sheriff's Office and New York State Police Patrols responded to a motor vehicle crash at the intersection of State Route 30 and State Route 30A in the town of Schoharie.
The limo crash that killed 20 people in upstate New York on October 6, 2018 is one of the deadliest ground transportation disasters in U.S. history.
Things should have never been on the road to begin with.
How the hell did this happen?
The owner of the limousine company was a former FBI informant.
Well, this was certainly one of the most egregious cases of intentional disregard for human life.
It's a story of tragedy and loss, of negligence and consequence. But more than anything else, it's a story of catastrophic failure.
We just want the truth to come out.
Listen now at timesunion.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you're enjoying this podcast, take advantage of all the Times Union has to offer and support our efforts to bring you award-winning journalism by becoming a Times Union subscriber today. Go to timesunion.com/subscribe.
Welcome back. You are listening to The Eagle, a Times Union podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Marshall. "24 years ago, New York State Writers Institute director and Times Union columnist Paul Grondahl interviewed the family of a lost hiker from Saratoga County. The hiker was 32-year-old Jim Weinman, and he'd gone missing in the Andes Mountains during a solo ice climb on a glacier. Last month, in 2024, nearly 2.5 decades later, Grondahl sat down with the Weinman family again. This time, it was because Chilean authorities had found Jim Weinman's remains in the mountains. Paul Grondahl joins me now to discuss this time-spanning story. This is a 3-decade-old story, right? Tell me how you got started with this story.
In 2000, I think it was August, and he'd been missing since June. I think I saw like a short wire story or something like that, and just contacted the family. I didn't know them, and they agreed to sit down with me. So I did a long story in 2000. I remember saying, if they ever find him, I hope you will let me do a follow-up story. And the father was alive then. The father and the mother and the brother said, yes, we would.
Wow. Well, what did they know at that point in 2000? Like, what did they know about what happened to Jim?
When I did the story, it was, a couple months after. They knew that his tent, his base camp was there at 10,000 feet of this 14,000 foot mountain called Cerro San Francisco in the Andes near Santiago, Chile. They knew he was there. He had written in his journal the night before he was reading Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, and then he vanished. And they had a terrible storm, 6 feet of snow, avalanches, mudslides. They couldn't get in there right away. Eventually, the family rented a helicopter and searched, and they did find the tent intact and everything in it. And Jim Weinman was not to be found, and no trace. And then it turned out to be 21 years later, Chilean glaciologists and their team researchers looking at the rapid retreat of glaciers with global warming found his body.
Wow. I mean, that's a whole story in and of itself, what those researchers were doing. But so in the end, he had gone for a hike in this kind of very precarious territory. I mean, I read John Krakauer's Into Thin Air. I have no, aspersions about what it must have been like. But and he must have just, gotten trapped in all of that, right? Is that kind of what the
Yeah. He and his brother were extremely skilled and serious mountaineers. They did Mount McKinley together, which is a very challenging climb, the highest peak in the United States. And they had climbed for years out in the Northwest. They lived in Oregon. They lived in where I from Seattle. They lived in Portland. They climbed Rainier, Hood. The Cascade Mountains are serious mountains, 10 to 14,000 feet. And they had a lot of experience, and they really became expert ice climbers, which is a very challenging, very risky. You have to have the right conditions. And he had done many solo climbs. So this was a solo climb, but this was a mountain where he had turned back 3 times before. He was taking a southern route, which was very technically challenging. And he often had a partner, but he couldn't find a partner, and he decided to go solo.
Let's talk about Jim more as a person. I mean, you mentioned a lot about what he did with his brother and such, but he also kind of, in your story, you go into the fact that he used climbing as a form of therapy, right?
Yeah, he suffered from depression pretty much his adult life. So when he disappeared, he was 32 years old. But he and his brother were inseparable. They were 18 months apart. They both went to Shenendehowa. Jim Weinman graduated in 1985. He went on to St. Lawrence University. He skied on the ski team. He graduated from St. Lawrence. His brother went to RIT, graduated. And as soon as they could, they took off. Even though they loved it, especially the Adirondacks, their family had a camp that had been in the family for generations on Lake George. They hiked all the high peaks. They water skied. They were just outdoor kids. But his brother moved first out to the Northwest, Seattle, then Portland, then Hood River. So the Columbia River Gorge is one of the world's best windsurfing places. And these two brothers would just work odd jobs and enough to like windsurf. They bought an old VW van and made it into a camper, and they traveled all over. They hiked mountains on several continents. Wow. And they were just kind of like free-spirited adventurers. The younger brother, Bob, who, talked to me for the story and had great insight into his brother and to what happened. He kind of settled down, had a regular job, had a family, but his older brother, Jim, was always trying to outrun the dark places. He would go to the Depression. He did a stint commercial fishing off the coast of Alaska, and he almost died in a storm. He had a terrible back injury. He really was shaken after that. And like his brother said, he said, the mountains and climbing was his medicine. it would take him away from the darkness. So, they knew the risks. He would, these serious climbers, plan their route, do some practice climbs. They don't just go up there and recklessly. So, but they always know that death is there, especially ice climbing.
Right.
Talked a lot about the ice has to be just right. You don't want participation. You don't want precipitation. You don't want it too cold because then the ice could crack off, too brittle. If it warms up too fast, the brother said, we'd been in situations where it was like a bowling alley. Boulders were raining down on us. Yeah, when it warms up, the ice releases those heavy boulders. He said he had perfect weather going in and he thought it was going to be another beautiful climb. And something happened. The Chilean authorities, the history of that country, Augusto Pinochet disappeared and killed so many of his countrymen. And so they took it very seriously. Was he murdered? Was it foul play?
Yes.
There was none. So they actually kept the body for 2 years before they released it to the family so they could, without a shadow of a doubt, know that there was no one else involved. But, he was in the ice for 21 years and
likely very well preserved in that case, right?
Yeah. And his helmet, his hiking gear, somehow he got separated from his backpack and he always had a camera. They were hoping that they could find that camera and be able to develop some pictures to find out how high he got. But, glaciers are like frozen rivers. They move a lot, especially with temperatures warming. So his body was found about 2,000 feet, almost half a mile below his base camp. And they knew he started out probably just after midnight and he got up. I don't know how close to the summit at 14,000 feet he got, but he got up well above 10,000 feet and they found him below 8,000 feet.
They also seem to have found a journal that he had kept, right?
That was in his tent. He always kept a journal. He was a really thoughtful, deep, philosophical. He had this saying, "In the mountains we are free." But the family, they were raised Catholic. The mother is still, devout. The sons still believe in faith, but they found their faith and purpose in the mountains. And but he would write very deep, and he read, Hermann Hesse is a very psychological, deep novel, and he would read, really serious works of literature and philosophy. And the sad part was this was before cell phones and GPS, so the searches are not as precise as they are now. And he would always kind of check in with his brother. You'd be like, okay, I'm coming out on this date or whatever. But when you're climbing and doing these remote things, he could go days, weeks, whatever, without communicating with anyone. Right. But he was supposed to meet his girlfriend, actually his fiance, in London right after this climb. And they're waiting at the airport on June 9th, and he doesn't show up. That's when they first reported him missing. And they just had no leads and no trace for 21 years until the body was discovered by these scientists.
That's incredible, though, that it was discovered, and it's incredible that he was finally returned to his family, right? His remains were sent back home, and they laid him to rest, right? Finally.
Yeah, they did. They had him cremated in Chile, and they were on good terms with. They had nothing but gratitude and respect for the people in Chile. They did everything they could, and this happens more than you would hope. It's a dangerous climbing area. It's very popular for climbing, and their father, who taught them how to ski, taught them how to love outdoors, taught them how to hike, was coming to the end of his 7-year journey with Alzheimer's. They brought the remains out on his brother's deck overlooking the Hudson River and had an 80th birthday cake for their father, who, had no more recognition, but he was still alive and he could still smile. Mm-hmm. And they celebrated, their son coming home finally, and their father's, and he passed away 3 months later. They scattered the father's and the son's ashes near one of their favorite spots on Lake George.
That's kind of the best end you could hope for, right?
Yeah. So, I talked to them 24 years ago, and then I'm back, and his brother at the time was 31. Now he's 55. Their mother was 55, and now she's 79. And when you think of 24 years, and yet their son and their brother was forever 32. His brother did a beautiful memorial climb in this remote rock cliff called Wall Face in the Adirondacks, and named a new route there for his brother Jim's faith, and embedded a picture of the family up on the rock. He was a big reader, and his mom was part of the Clifton Park Half Moon Library. They put a brick there with their son's name and dates, and his favorite quote, "In the mountains, we are free." They did the same thing at the base of the mountain in Chile in the Andes. The authorities let them place a plaque there.
You can read Paul Grondahl's most recent column and his original story from 24 years ago at timesunion.com. That is it for this week. The Eagle is a production of the Times-Union. It's produced and edited by myself, Jessica Marshall, with help from the Times-Union digital team and the newsroom. Our music is Flyin' by Top Floor. Special thanks to Shannon Fromma and Paul Grondahl for their contributions to this episode. Do you have questions or comments about anything that you've heard on the show or any Times-Union podcasts? Email us at podcast@timesunion.com. Oh, and by the way, there is a new episode of our sister podcast, Rainwalker, The Lost Boy. It's the story of the disappearance of 12-year-old Jaliek Rainwalker in 2007. Listen anywhere you get your podcasts or at timesunion.com. Support for this podcast comes from CDTA, The Eagle, a Times-Union podcast driven by CDTA.